Welcome to the show, everybody. You know, if we're being honest, how many people have said to themselves, I shouldn't have gone to that Coldplay concert last night? You know what I mean? That take over your algo like it did mine. Holy Stromboli. Welcome into the show. This is the Farsi Show presented by MyBookie, mybookie.ag. It is absolutely wonderful to have you along for the ride on a Friday morning edition of the Farsi Show, where we get to talk about a hilarious new list. Shout out Mike Sealski, Inquirer.com. Good hustle to you, my dear friend. That involves Jalen Hurts as the worst quarterback in the NFL. Trust me, you'll like it. Anyway, it gets into that, and then we're going to get into the Phillies coming back. That's right. Jesus Luzardo will be on the hill tonight as they start a 3-game series with the Angels in South Philadelphia. That'll be fun. Phillies start the post-All-Star portion of the schedule. 14 games over 500, in first place in the National League East, and with the All-Star Game MVP, Kyle Schwarber. That'll be a good time. Yesterday, I mentioned that Kyle Schwarber had mutual interest with the Phillies. The Phillies and Kyle Schwarber had mutual interest in re-signing Kyle Schwarber. Well, wouldn't you know it? Scott Lauber, Inquirer.com as well, asked Kyle Schwarber about playing in Cincinnati and his home, essentially, where he grew up. And he was like, oh, yeah, that'd be nice. I was like, don't you dare put that thought in his head. Don't you dare put that thought in his head. Not that you had to put that thought in his head. It was probably very much in his head already. But, you know, it didn't work out great for Ken Griffey Jr. Anyway, I just really hope he resigns here in Philadelphia, but we'll get into that story. And then the story of stories is the Joel Embiid story. Holy Stromboli. Good Lord, man. I finished reading it. I'll have my book report delivered on this program today. My overall takeaway of the Joel Embiid ESPN feature. Number one is exactly what I told you guys yesterday when I was only, as it would turn out, maybe a quarter of the way through reading the story. He doesn't trust anybody. And with the Sixers, rightfully so. Think about this. We don't trust the Sixers as a fan base. Do you think the players there, especially in the beginning stages of the process, trusted the 76ers? Would you trust a workplace that just kind of got manhandled by the NBA in pushing out their general manager in Sam Hinkie? Whether you liked Hinkie or not, that in itself is a little hinky. So he gets pushed out. They force feed you Jerry Colangelo, which then force feeds you Brian Colangelo, which then gives you Burnergate, and before that gives you the Meniscus Gate, where Joel Embiid's actually playing, having a phenomenal rookie season, and he's got a torn meniscus. Well, he doesn't have a torn meniscus, but he's going to play against Houston on national television. Okay, fine. And then you find out, all right, he didn't have a torn meniscus. Meniscus thought it was a little too small to even report, but acute was the word. It was too acute. We thought it was too acute to say that he had a torn meniscus. Okay, so he had a torn meniscus. Okay. So this is the franchise that you want to trust. Oh my goodness gracious, I'm so sorry. Brett Brown trades for Zaire Smith. Like, basically, you know the history lesson with the Sixers. I'm not going to go any further than that. So basically, if you're playing for the Sixers or in the Sixers organization, do you mean to tell me that you trust them? So I don't blame Joel Embiid for having trust issues when it comes to the 76ers, and really in his entire life. You're talking about a guy that went away at 16. I'm going to go learn to play basketball in a different country. Okay, bye. After, by the way, not such a cozy upbringing. Not exactly a very affectionate household he grew up in, unfortunately, but, you know, it is what it is. So I get it that he's got his guard up with a lot of people. That's number one, my takeaway. Number two, and this probably leans into the trust issues, they had an intern overseeing his original rehab. Like, he's drafted, has surgery, and now I don't know if overseeing, because it was kind of vague about this, I don't know if overseeing means it's like a medical intern or if it's like a staff intern of the Sixers just telling Josh Harris, Brett Brown, Sam Hinkie what he's doing. Like, something tells me Sam Hinkie is, I know that some people, this might hit the ears wrong, but I think Sam Hinkie is too smart for that. So Sam Hinkie gets here and he changes that, brings in someone else. David Miller, I believe is the man's name. And he's going to be overseeing Joel Embiid's rehab. And back to the trust again, Embiid would leave David Martin. He was staying with Embiid for a little while, and Embiid would leave handfuls of $20 bills, like on his dining room table. And the amount of people that would be in and out of that apartment, like cleaning it, visitors, trainers, whatever, friends, whatever, limited friends, he would just see if the money was still there. And David Martin goes, do you think I'm going to steal that money? Like, why are you leaving your money out? And he goes, well, I don't think you'd steal it. I'm just seeing who would. It was like, damn, this man has been cut deep. I'm not even talking about the surgery. So trust is a big thing. The medical plan when they originally drafted Joel Embiid is certainly a thing. And all it boils down to, that probably the biggest takeaway of the entire piece, like if I had to tell, oh, you're going to sit down and read that piece? If I had to tell you, hey, you're going to sit down and read that piece? Let me just save you some time. Here's my side of the story. That's what it is. It is without question. And look, the writer it is a great story. It is written beautifully. It really does. Me personally, I don't need to know how long curtains are in a room, but it is very descriptive. But the writer did a great job with it. It is a fantastic piece. Oftentimes, these stories don't happen unless there are either understandings or an understanding or a final goal in mind of this is going to be me explaining me. This is going to be my side of the story. I am going to look good when this is all said and done. That's my overall takeaway of this piece. This, without question, is Joel Embiid. It's almost an extension of his PR team. It, without question, is him. Look, I've heard about these stories before where sometimes even, I'm not saying this happened, but just as an extreme, I've heard about stories like this, feature pieces by not known writers who get their break, if you will. And it's even agreed upon sometimes about, hey, don't use this quote, take this quote, blah, blah, blah. Take this, they'll get the proofread the story, or at least give it one, have the first read before it's released. I wouldn't be shocked if something like that happened. Like, that's the way these things work sometimes. It is very much all about Joel Embiid, his side of the story, his take on everything, and his explanation for a lot. And I think what it really does is address one of the quotes I mentioned yesterday, which was Joel Embiid is saying in this story, he goes, I'm worried about my legacy as a basketball player, but not as a man. As a man, he can't tell me nothing. Okay. And I'm not here to judge Joel Embiid personally. I don't know him personally. I've met him in a non-interview setting, non-media session once. And it was pleasant, by the way. And the personal stuff, kids, all that, God bless him. His stuff, growing up in Africa before coming to the United States, God bless him. It's absolutely tragic. I can't imagine losing a sibling. I'm not here to judge him as a person. I'm here to judge him as a basketball player. Keith Pompey brought this up on Locked On Sixers yesterday. I thought it was an excellent point. Is this part of the farewell? If this season doesn't go well for Joel Embiid, health-wise, if his health limits him again to, barely 20 games, if it's another uphill battle where, you're going to need another surgery if you want to keep going, he could just hang it up. One of the things in the story mentions how he created generational wealth for his family. And you might say that's obvious. You talk about, $93 million extension. That's pretty wild. So, yeah, he could just hang it up. That's it. Call it a career. And this piece could be the first domino to fall in, well, you guys read the piece, I'm done, you know my side of things. Everything came out in that article, and a lot of the heavy lifting is already done with this article being out there. Because you talk about his legacy as a basketball player, this does a lot of that explaining. That's what it does. So the next thing we hear from Joel Embiid, if this doesn't go well, might just be, this is it. It's over. And this could be the first goodbye in a series of goodbyes where, it's like you're at a family gathering when you're a kid and your parents say, all right, get in the car. We're saying, say your goodbyes, we're getting in the car. And then it's like a half hour later, they're still talking to people, It's just, no, we're leaving. We're going, but just getting it. It's like one of those deals. It really was a wild story to follow, and a lot of things I didn't know. I didn't know they had an intern, quote unquote, overseeing his first rehab. You get back to the trust issues, and it's funny considering a guy that is all about trust the process. Trust is a big thing for him. But there's one particular case that he describes in the story, or is described in the story, where David Martin takes over kind of the rehab for him. And Joel Embiid is saying the entire time his rookie year, like, I can't play, my foot. And the Sixers like, you got to play. He's like, I can't play, my foot, man. It's not, it feels like it's not healing, still bothering me. And then everyone's, oh, he's soft, but this, that, and the other. And then they go get the x-ray, which is just wild to me that this would take a year for them to x-ray. And they examine him again, and the doctor goes, oh, yeah, this foot isn't healing. What the hell's going on here? And Joel Embiid felt so vindicated that, look, I wasn't being a baby. I wasn't being soft. I wasn't ready. This didn't feel right this entire time. So I'm like, if he's telling you this entire time it didn't feel right, what the hell? And then that's when he goes to Qatar or Qatar to seek his own doctors, seek his own, medical staff, essentially, surgery. He asked to do that because basically he didn't trust what the hell the Sixers were doing. So, yeah, part of me goes, yeah, Joel Embiid, I don't think in a lot of instances had to put himself in the right position to have success. And that comes to eating habits, staying in shape, stuff like that. I think all that is absolutely true, and that's on Joel Embiid. But he also says in the article, when he talks about injury prone and all that, he's like, how am I supposed to help getting elbowed in the face? Yeah, that's fair. I get that part of it. How is he supposed to help Markelle Fultz's shoulder being rammed into his face so that he has to wear the mask in the postseason, It's absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. A lot of bad things about how is he supposed to help Bell's palsy, for instance. Really wild. But then there's other things of just eating right, not eating yourself out of shape. But then there's other things I look at that it's absolutely not his fault. I mean, just as we watched a bad situation with the 76ers, he was in a bad situation with the 76ers. So if you're talking about explaining his point of view, what he went through, oh, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I acknowledge it, I should say. I don't push that out the window that the Sixers are some messed up organization, especially in his early stages of his NBA career. It was a wild ride to just kind of experience things through his eyes, through his quotes. He also said he knows who the snitch was from the Miami meeting of last season. Look, I have no evidence. I got nothing but hunches. Okay. He talks about it in the story as if he says he knows who it is, but won't say who it is. So the reporter does ask him, well, come on, you don't know who it was, or you're not going to say it. And he's like, no, I'm not going to go there. The past is in the past. And he goes, so you're just going to have that guy on your team again? He goes, well, he might be on my team. He might not be on my team. Meaning it's somebody who could have been gone at the end of last year, a free agent maybe, a restricted or unrestricted free agent. The popular guess is Eric Gordon. That's the popular guess. But Eric Gordon's back. Eric Gordon doesn't make any sense to me. It never made sense to me. Why would he be the snitch? So if he's talking about he could be back, he couldn't be back, and Joel Embiid knows he's a snitch, Eric Gordon to me doesn't seem to be the kind of guy that can pull enough weight to be here and Joel Embiid not like him. Like that doesn't make any sense. So hold on. If Joel Embiid doesn't like the snitch, then the stitch probably isn't going to be back here. Eric Gordon is back here. He doesn't have enough weight. So that leads me to, all right, well, who's got a little bit more pull that wouldn't mind that information coming out in the media? And it's Kyle Lowry. In my mind, like, look, again, hunch, no evidence whatsoever. What makes sense to you? Kyle Lowry is besties with the coach. Kyle Lowry's a veteran. And Kyle Lowry probably also thought, oh, this will give him a kick in the ass. And I even thought at the time, and this isn't incriminating of Kyle Lowry at all, but I even thought at the time that he was one of the guys to actually call that meeting in Miami. Now, he's got some pull because he's in with the head coach, and they're not going to fire Nick Nurse after 1 year. I know it was a bad year. But that wasn't going to happen. And Kyle Lowry has got enough sway with Tyrese Maxey where he's going to be back either way. So that's why the Eric Gordon theory goes out the window in my mind. Because if once this story came out, Joel Embiid's like, yeah, I know who it is. He might be back, he might not be back. I'm like, well, if you don't like him, he's not going to be back. And if he is going to be back, that means he's got some kind of pull somewhere else. Eric Gordon doesn't have that. Kyle Lowry does. And even if it was Kyle Lowry, I ain't mad at him. I'm glad we know a lot of the things that were said in that meeting. Like, Joel, stop being late to everything, bro. For all I know, it could have been Tyrese Maxey. For all I know, well, Quentin Grimes wasn't there yet. Could have been anybody. Could have been anybody. That's where my head goes, though. One more thing from this story that I also thought was wild. So I don't know if I'm saying her name right. Kim Kaspare or Kim Casper was Joel Embiid's trainer. Like, she would get him ready for games and all that stuff. Like, I think she would be in the pictures if he was like eating the cheeseburger or the grapes before the games, which was referenced in the story. And when Joel Embiid had Bell's palsy and he was playing against the Knicks in the playoffs 2 years ago, she urged him before the game. Now, look, she's not with the Sixers. She's solely working for Joel Embiid, so she just cares about Joel Embiid. Even to the point where it says in the story that friends of hers would tease her, saying she had 2 young kids. She had a 5-year-old, I think, and a 2-year-old. And people would say, well, how's your oldest? Meaning Joel Embiid. So at one point, she texts Joel Embiid before Game 3 against the New York Knicks. And she texts him and she says, hey, you really need to put yourself on a 25-minute restriction. 25-minute restriction. Limit, I should say. 25-minute limit against the Knicks. Now, I think any NBA fan knows that ain't going to happen. You're either playing or you're not. But she's in it with Joel. She's looking for his best interest. And she texts Joel Embiid that she doesn't get a response. He shows up to the arena for Game 3. She's there to get him ready. And she goes, did you get my text? And she shows him the text. And he goes, yeah. He played 40 minutes that night. And he dropped 50 points. This article is all about legacy. And it's a legacy that is helped being shaped by the article, by Joel Embiid. The legacy right now for Joel Embiid is that of an incredible talent that just wasn't healthy enough to get it done. That's the legacy. And if you want to boil it down to a word, it's unfortunately losing. Under-delivering on the promise that the process was. I don't see Joel Embiid being healthy this year. I don't see Paul George being healthy this year. The Sixers are in a really awful state. Big buku bucks for talent that can't perform. I really have been amazed by Joel Embiid when healthy, when playing, worth every ounce of an MVP, worth every ounce of being a finalist 3 times, winning once. He's been watching him play has been amazing. I made the comparison at the start of last year that watching Allen Iverson is the greatest thrill I'll probably ever have as a Sixers fan. His game was just incredible. On game day, I never had to worry about him. Joel Embiid on game day, I got to worry about every single time. Joel Embiid's career has been far more exhausting to cover to talk about, to follow, far more exhausting than Allen Iverson. Because when it came down to game time, he was ready to go. That was never it. No matter how hard he hit the floor the night before, no matter what, he was ready to go. Joel Embiid is the closest thing I will have in a long time, probably all of us, to that Allen Iverson level of excitement. But the injuries have just mounted up to a point where I'm looking at this as the last hurrah for Joel Embiid. And this article definitely points me in the direction of absolutely, as Keith and I were talking about yesterday, goodbye. The initial. So, yeah, I got to be going. It's kind of what this feels like. And then, all right, bye-bye. That's what it feels like. There's one more thing I feel like I'm missing here. That's driving me bananas. Oh, as far as coming back, new approach is that they're not going to push anything. So even if like Daryl Morey, that's what it is. Two things on Daryl Morey. One, Daryl Morey has been saying, yeah, we're hopeful that Joel Embiid will be ready to start the season. I would say the safe bet, he is not ready to start the season. I would say Joel Embiid's season could possibly start in January. But I am not expecting him to be ready to go at the start of the year. The other thing is Joel Embiid Nick Nurse, and now I didn't know how this was set up. It wasn't clear how this was set up in the story, but I assume this is a conference room in Camden, and it's just Daryl Morey and Nick Nurse. It's not a media session. That's like, it's clear where it was. I wasn't sure what the setting was, if it was a media session or not. So it's Daryl Morey, Nick Nurse, and someone from Sixers PR. And the reporter is asking the questions and all that stuff about Joel Embiid being back and being healthy and all that. And Daryl Morey just like laughs at one point at the idea of Joel Embiid being ready to play and go on all cylinders. It was laughable. Nick Nurse had to leave. And Daryl Morey just was like laughing. And that was the end of the interview. That's not an answer. Joel Embiid was posed that question about it being over, and he just said, yeah, they were just laughing. Just laughing. Might be done. Also, playing in the Olympics, that's something that's bothered me for a long time and still bothers me. But he played in the Olympics. Played in the Olympics, wasn't ready for the regular season. His PR team swatted that away. That's the word they use, swatted that notion away. Yeah, you played in the Olympics, you weren't ready for the regular season. Well, stop it. Like, who are we trying to fool here? That was another, by the way, and I said that at the time. He wins the gold medal. He's not ready for the opener of last season. And my take at the time, and it's still the take, is that he knows he is getting very close to the end. Like, there's going to be an abrupt end here. It's not going to be a 3-year, in 3 years. Well, Joel Embiid's still going to stay healthy this year? Can Joel Embiid give you 25 minutes a game this year? That ain't happening. It's going to be an abrupt end. So my take then and now is the same. My take is Joel Embiid won that gold medal because that was most likely his last hurrah. He knew that was going to be his last chance to win something substantial. A chance to play on a team of those superstars, setting picks for Steph Curry. He knew that that would be his only chance to come away, to walk off a court as a champion. And that sucks for us. But individually, Joel Embiid, his life, his career, that's awesome. So I ain't mad at him. I'm just like, what the hell, man? We're the city that has been following you this whole time. We're the people hanging on every word, hanging on every hit the floor. Hey, thanks for winning for America and stuff. But selfishly, what about Philadelphia? I don't blame him for it. I don't hate him for it. I get it. I mean, I have to like it. Achieve that goal for himself. Good for him. And then won't be able to achieve the goal for the 76ers. Not solely because he played in the Olympics, but It's a really bad look when you play there and you don't play here. So if you have, I don't know, maybe you're a much faster reader than I am. If you have time to go through that story, read that story, by all means. It's worth the view. It's worth the read. Philadelphia Phillies back at it tonight. I am very much looking forward to this unofficial second half of the season, the post All-Star break portion of the season. Here's what you got as far as your pitching matchups go, or for the Phillies, your starting rotation here. Luzardo's going to go tonight at 6:45. Walker goes tomorrow night at 6:05. Suarez at 1:35. Wheeler at 6:45. And then Sanchez rounds it out the rest of the way on Tuesday. That's a series with the Boston Red Sox. I will say this before the All-Star break about Taijuan Walker. When you look at him as a starter this year, I mean, overall, you're talking about a 3.55 ERA. But as a starter this year, he has been somewhat better. Well, I mean, anything's pretty much better than last year, but has not been a disappointment this year for the most part. I still would rather McAble come back up and have a young guy work on his craft more so than Taijuan Walker be a starter. But, whatever. He is coming off that start where he went 4 innings against the Giants, allowed just 1 run, 2 hits, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. I'll take that. I think we all will. 4 innings, 5 innings, fine. That's all you really need from him. And if you look throughout the rest of his starts this year, you look at 5 innings against Colorado, quality start. Or 5 innings against Colorado, 3 runs, not abysmal. 2 runs, 3 innings. That wasn't a start, though, against St. Louis. Got beat up by the Nationals of all teams once, 4 runs. Got beat up by the Giants in the first time he saw them this year. Other than that, as a starter, he has been surprisingly better than he has been last year. And you're talking about him as a 5th starter in the rotation. Yeah, I can't be all that mad at that. And plus, Taijuan Walker isn't my problem anymore. My problem has been the bullpen. My problem has been the bats going dead quiet. So this is where I'll reiterate this, and I believe I've said this all week, and I'm certainly going to say it today now that they're back in action. Over the next 2 weeks, Dave Dombrowski is the most important man in Philadelphia. In all Philadelphia sports, Howie Roseman's great. Jalen Hurts is amazing. All of it's wonderful. But Dave Dombrowski is the most important person in Philadelphia sports for the next 14 days. I need to see somebody new in this starting lineup. That new person's better be playing left field, and he better be getting on base, and he better not be striking out. I better see somebody in the back end of the bullpen. By the way, my father-in-law, I was outside doing some work yesterday, and came in, and my father-in-law said, well, they traded Clase. Again, my father-in-law is a Guardians fan. Grew up Cleveland area, and still diehard Cleveland everything, even, yes, the Browns. And he goes, well, they traded Clase for nothing. And I go, what? And it turns out he saw some social media post that was a proposal. It was one of those deals that it's just like, the Guardians trade Clase to the Phillies in this trade proposal. It's like, oh, it'll clickbait is what it is. And I was like, what? And I immediately checked it out. And I had my watch on. Like, I got no Jeff Passan alerts or anything. No ESPN alerts, no nothing. And I was like, what the hell? And it turned out, obviously, it didn't happen. So just in case that fooled anybody else, just know it didn't happen. But I'd love to see Clase and Quan here in Philadelphia. The Jeff Passan link is great. The Bednar trade possibility with the Pirates, getting him in the back end of the bullpen here would be great. The name, I was like, well, who are the Pirates could join the Phillies? And I was like, Andrew McCutchen? I was like, no, don't want to do that. Do love Kutch, though, but no. But Dave Dombrowski's got to find something. The dream of dreams is that Brent Rooker would be able to play left field for the Phillies and then rake in this lineup. That'd still be baller. I just don't see it happening. But new left fielder, another back end of the bullpen arm. You have your assignment, Dave Dombrowski. You have your assignment. All right, let's get to this Jalen Hurts story. My dear friend, Mike Sealski, you hilarious man, you. Just in case you guys are, perusing the internet today, I just want you to be aware of this article on Inquirer.com. Come on, ESPN. Jalen Hurts is not the 9th best quarterback in the NFL. He's the worst. Hurts is terrible, and we all know he's terrible. Let us count the ways. Now, of course, Mike is referring to this list put out by ESPN, of course, by Jeremy Fowler, talking to coaches, executives, and general managers. Oh, scouts, executives, general managers. And they rank the quarterbacks, and Jalen Hurts right down there. At number 9. Damn ridiculous, if you ask me. But that's where he is, number 9. This article is hilarious. I started reading it, and I was like, all right, Mike, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? And it is exactly what you think it is. In a recent ESPN poll of coaches, executives, and scouts, Jalen Hurts was ranked as the NFL's 9th best quarterback. It should go without saying that this result is so ridiculous that it calls for the entire poll and the acumen of those supposed football experts into question. Everyone knows that Jalen Hurts isn't the 9th best quarterback in the league. He's the worst quarterback in the league. Here are the top 11 reasons he's terrible. Originally, I thought this was just going to be a piece about like motivating Jalen Hurts to be so terrible, but Mike is just great. Like he talks about Patrick Mahomes, voters' clear choice, NFL top quarterback. Fine. He referenced if he didn't keep throwing the ball to Cooper DeJean and Zach Bond and reacted like a frightened little kitty every time Josh Sweat got near him, can't blame him for that. Joe Burrow, light up a cigar after a big game thing. Long before Hurts did it after Super Bowl 59. True. Did I have that right? Yeah. True pioneer, also 2 words, frosted tips. So fresh. Everything Hurts does, Lamar Jackson does better, except play well in the postseason, but that's a minor matter. Basically, the article that Josh Allen, for instance, Josh Allen has to play in Buffalo. That fact alone gives him advantage over Hurts. It just goes on, and it's all like this. And I'm just laughing at every single one of these things because it was, I will say, I thought it was going to be more of, Jalen Hurts is terrible. Like a full piece on Jalen Hurts being terrible just to be motivation. Like a clear, like hit piece, like sarcastic hit piece on Jalen Hurts just to give him more motivation. But no, it just pokes fun at the entire process of not naming the Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP, regular season MVP runner-up, 2-time NFC conference champion quarterback, higher than 9. So if you see that come up in your algo today, give it a read. It's a fun time. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but Mike, good work out of you. Good work out of you. Hey, let me tell you about the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code Farzy, and get $20 off your first purchase on the Game Time app. Want to go to the game, the concert, the comedy show? Game Time app has you covered. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code Farzy, get $20 off your first purchase on the Game Time app. How about PHL Sports Nation, Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs? That's PHLSportsNation.com. Let's get into the chat check and see how wonderful people are doing this fine morning. Rye, good morning, Rye. Jason, morning, everyone. Farzy show before 7, stud. Yeah, I got to run with the Fox today, unfortunately. Jason, good morning, though. Embiid hopefully gets well. Otherwise, this season might blow as well. Yeah, it will. Yeah, it's not going to be a fun season. Let's talk about it. All right. Sean Gillespie, good morning. Jerry Von Skyver, hello. Morning, Farzy and friends. What a classy move by the Philadelphia Eagles resigning Brian Verman to make sure his family. That's really nice. That's really nice. Jeremy, also, Embiid is glass. AI was Embiid is to glass as AI was to steel. Hell yeah. Embiid being injury prone is not his fault, but some decisions like early dietary habits, exactly, and his decision to play in the Olympics, he must own. I agree. Like the collapse in the playoffs versus the Celtics. Yep. Rye, what's up? Sixers suck. with no hope in sight. At least Flyers got Danny and a new coach. 83 Sixers, 75 Flyers perspective. Fair enough. Taijuan Walker hasn't been our problem this year. He's pitched well enough. I agree. To win most of his games. The issue with this team is a lack of offense. Absolutely. Unretire Greg Dobbs. Wow, Mopar, good to see you. Coming in with authority with a Greg Dobbs reference. Adding another 30-year-old plus injury-riddled career such as Byron Buxton is not the answer. I agree. Not trading Painter or Kane. I agree. I'm not trading. No, I can't. He's amazing, but it's like having less drama probably, but having another Embiid. You just never trust that he's going to be healthy. April, great shout out. Sealski sucks. Shout out to Dan. Hope he is well. Yeah, hope he's okay, but for real, great article. It is a great article. CM Punk, good morning. Johnny J, what's up, Doc? I'm convinced the whole Jalen Hurts disrespect is all media BS during the offseason. They cannot be serious at this point. Well, Sealski's certainly not serious, but I think everybody else is, unfortunately. Folks, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I'll be back with you guys Locked On 76ers with Keith Pompey coming up later today. I think we're going live at 10 o'clock. And then back to the postcast world. Be back on Locked On Phillies YouTube channel tonight following the Phillies, hopefully opening the second half of the season with a win over the Angels. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. My name is Mark Farzetta. Have a wonderful rest of your day. See you guys throughout it.